Hello everybody, welcome.
Batch of poems. The final batch, we've got 5 poems. Caroline Gilfinius, who has form in this competition, I know, and others, is next with not 1 but 2 poems, and they're very different to each other, I think. Like and Seen Through a Magnifying Glass, as the title implies, goes in really close. And it's a poem of place, in a very particular place and a very particular time. The other poem, Isle of Man, Internees, it's one of those poems that gets you Googling. It's kind of not so much a poem of place, but of displacement and a sort of victory of art over tyranny. So that's Caroline. Then we have Alexandra Davis's poem, She Is On Her Way, which is another well-realised COVID poem that, I mean, it addresses really movingly one of the cruelties of this pandemic, but also the intensification of love that brings, and both of which have magnified, I'm guessing, since the time of writing. And then the last of the commended poems is Halcyon by Sally Baker, another ekphrasis poem. And this one's based on Hieronymus Bosch's The Garden of Earthly Delights. And you probably all know that famous phrase when someone introduced something complicated. Anyway, ekphrasis, that writing of the visuals, it's a tricky business. I mean, its origins lie in philosophy, where they would have kind of, to prove yourself as philosophy, you had to describe something that other people hadn't seen in a way to make it vivid. And Sally expertly does that with some fantastical imagery in this poem. So I'm now going to hand back. Yep.
May I just ask that we hear David Healy's commended poem alongside his highly commended poem, because he's been very clever to win 2 awards. So could we hear his during the highly commended section? So if Caroline's ready, can we start with her first poem?
You can. Shall I just say a little, David's other poem then? It's another medical related poem, Critical Care, and that kind of hones in on the essence of the days we're living through, giving heart to those sort of seemingly like banal routines, necessities and demands that come with it. So now,
okay, so the first one is Like and Seen Through a Magnifying Glass, and it's a little glass like this. I don't know if you've seen these. You use them to go and peer at things very closely. Anyway, so Like and Seen Through a Magnifying Glass. Through the bulge of the glass, I peer at the slate wall and enter a miniature desert of scree and black splurge. And on a larch tree, I locate a pelt of green that was a companion to William and Dorothy as they squelch from Grasmere to Ambleside to collect the post. Close up, it smells of wood and warmth, a survivor from a time when mammoths trampled the temperate rainforest. I'm looking for an acid yellow lichen, the one I saw on pavements and walls between the purple prettiness of Albrecia when I cycled to the beach along the quiet roads that led to Shingle. But it's absent from this soft, moist place. Another thing I've left behind, like the whistle of the pressure cooker, the LP of the Emperor Concerto, the skittish cat giving her dusty belly to the sun. Thank you. My second poem is about the artists of all nationalities who were interned on the Isle of Man early in the Second World War, a quite extraordinary bunch. You may recognise some of the names. Their stories are quite incredible. Isle of Man internees. Stuffed into the tall terraces of Hutchinson Square, they ripped up lino to score into prints, concocted paint from clay, brick dust and dribbles of sardine oil. Marjan Ravic sampled 11 pianos, and when one fell to pieces, artists grabbed the panels, carted them away. Kurt Schwitters painted the badge and cap, the kind face of prison guard Edward Driscoll on a tea chest panel, and hid his own epilepsy and gloom under a cloak of Dadaist performance and barks, sleeping in a room ripe with putrid porridge sculptures. Hundreds of them lugged chairs to the modest rooms and bumpy lawns of the lecture house to listen to mathematicians, artists, musicians, a lion tamer who could pick dandelions with a swish of his lasso. They squashed into a bedroom to watch Of Mice and Men and snigger at Romeo and Julian. Some baked, sewed, cooked kippers, hung washing on the fence. Many worked on the island's farms, but come nightfall, they were all behind the wire in rooms thick with male sweat, breath and snores. More than 1,000 were locked up here. Hitler's degenerates, communists and Jews. Exiles who'd fled to Britain from the knock on the door, the shattered windows and guarded ghettos that blows, blood, spittle and cattle trucks. Now they were enemy aliens, Jerrys, wops, after Churchill barked, "Collar the lot."
She is on her way. His body moves with the sudden strength and flex of youth. Sculpture returns to flesh. He has lifted 2 rusted garden chairs from the back of the house out to the front garden. They will conduct their reunion in tableau, like ancient Greek theatre. No thresholds will be broached today. They will sit 2 meters apart within the circling arms of the privet. They are in an Austen novel. He has placed her chair farthest from the bins. They will gaze and grin at each other like bookends, shielding a strange story. Theirs. They will coexist in 3 dimensions for the first time in 11 weeks. She will bring cupcakes upturned by speed bumps. Her hair will be longer and her laughter will burst and fall like joyous ashes around them. The duet of their conversation will be like summer has arrived. The poise of their bodies will be breathtaking.
Hi, Halcyon. So this is a small detail from the painting of the Garden of Earthly Delights. I'm not to scale with the man who sits at my feet, holding a woman's face as if to kiss her or confess a sin. My beak frames the scene, a blade, closed scissors, a missile about. My breast is the velvet curtain at the edge of his stage. 2 men in black and white inspect my tail, their heads just visible in the dark. My scarlet claw is the size of a human face. It rests on a mallard's back. We're all on board, flying over the man in love with a barn owl. We birds all turn our beaks to the temple, prepare to fly in formation over the crowds. My body is also the world, a dark blue sky over sea, summer lightning on the horizon. A sandy beach runs down from the forest of island I carry on my wing. There, flung out on the waves, is the light of a solitary fisherman. Thank you.